In this video, I'm going to give you the keys to working a step 12. Are you new in recovery and are you looking to understand the 12 steps, or are you a sponsor taking someone through the steps for the very first time? Doing step work is part of a balanced recovery program, or taking someone through the steps can be a daunting process, but really doesn't need to be. I'm Tim Westbrook, and I'm the founder and CEO of Camelback Recovery here in the always sunny and always sober Scottsdale, Arizona. And I'm here to break it down for you so you can get a jump start on your addiction recovery. If you haven't seen it yet, do yourself a favor and go back and watch my top 3 secrets to understanding step 12. This is my next video, how to work step 12. Firstly, just a reminder, what does step 12 say? Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to addicts and alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Let's pick up from my last video, Step 12 Secrets, and talk about this thing called a spiritual awakening. In Step 12, in my opinion, this isn't necessarily some aha moment or a baptism of faith or anything that occurs in an instant. For me, at least, it's about working with God to improve our relationships with others and ourselves. This is where phrases like carrying the message are important. Sharing at a meeting on a milestone or cheering when you have a few months of clean time under your belt are all excellent examples of working step 12 before you've necessarily arrived at it by working steps 1 through 11. Hopefully, this is something you've already begun to do. So, our spiritual awakening involves taking the time to appreciate what reality is like and then sharing our new outlook with others. The other tip I have for working step 12 is that we realize that the lessons we have learned in recovery don't just apply to our sobriety. We can use the tools of recovery in all aspects of our lives. In fact, we start to see that recovery is life. That's also why we have the freedom to work the steps at different times in our recovery as we move forward into our new lives. Why is that? Well, partly because there are 12 principles that underpin the 12 steps. At the end of this video, I'm going to share with you the 12 principles and how they relate to each step, and why it's so important that we recognize the moment when we need to work a particular step when a situation arises. But first, a few tips on how to carry the message. This can be as simple as approaching a newcomer at a meeting during the break, welcoming them to the program, welcoming them to the meeting, letting them know, hey, I'm glad you're here. Offer a few kind words, offer a smile, be welcoming. I remember when I went to my very first meeting, I was scared, I was broken, I was down, I was in the dumps. My wife, she's now my ex-wife, she left me and I was a disaster. I felt empty. I was broken. And I had never gone to a 12-step meeting before in my life. And the men at that meeting were so welcoming. And it made me, I felt like I was at home. And then I was able to open up and I was able to listen to other people's shares. And that's how I was able to find the similarities and not the differences. And that's how it was for me. I mean, my first 30 days, I always stood up as a newcomer and they say, hey, anybody in their first 30 days, go ahead and announce yourself. And I'd say, my name's Tim, I'm an addict, or I'm Tim, I'm an alcoholic. And that always prompted people to come up to me and say hello. So I would say it's important to always raise your hand and let people know that you're new. That's you want that type of attention. In my opinion, in my experience, you want everybody to know you're a newcomer. That's how you're going to connect. That's how you're going to create connections with people that are in the rooms. And then once you get far enough along, you're able to carry the message, step 12, and you're able to welcome newcomers to the meeting. And remember, AA, or the 12-step program, is a selfish program. The reason we do the things that we do is because we want to stay clean and sober. And that's why you're going to do it, because you want to stay clean and sober. Try not to project your story onto someone else when sharing your story. There's no need to over identify or go about slapping a label on someone by saying, you're definitely an addict. You're definitely an alcoholic. Let me help you. You need help. And I used to think that many people were addicts or alcoholics when I first got clean and sober. And it's like, oh, that person's an addict. That person's an alcoholic. And then I would try to push myself on them. It doesn't work. That doesn't work. Think about it. If someone came to you before you got clean and sober and you weren't ready, it was probably a huge turnoff. I mean, I had lots of people that would come to me and tell me that I was an alcoholic, I was a drug addict, I needed help. And I mean, that was as far back as I can remember. Especially, I remember being in college and I had to go to these alcohol classes because I got a DUI. And I remember the teacher was a guy that was in AA. And he was projecting and telling me that I was an alcoholic and that I needed help. And I just wasn't ready for it. Alcoholism and drug addiction is self-diagnosed, and that's the only way it really works. When carrying the message, it's important to remember that we aren't asking for anything in return. Being of service is its own reward. Being of service is what leads to happiness and fulfillment, which is really what we're after. The best way to look at it is that we keep what we have by giving it away. Just as we have admitted our powerlessness to reclaim our autonomy, and just as we surrender to win, now we give back so that we can keep enjoying the fruits of recovery. So, to wrap it up, I mentioned that there are 12 principles. These are also the principles that step 12 suggests we practice in all of our affairs. It's practicing these principles in all of my affairs. It's also a great way to go over what we have learned thus far with each step we have taken. The 12 principles and how they relate to each step are: honesty. Step 1 asked us to own up and admit our powerlessness. To be clean and sober, we need to be honest, and that honesty starts with ourselves. AA, or the 12-step program, is a program of truth telling. That's the way that I like to think about it. There's a woman named Dr. Anna Lemke. She's the chief medical officer of the addiction department at Stanford. She wrote a book called Dopamine Nation, and she talks about one of the reasons why the 12-step program is so successful is because it's a program of truth telling. I know when I'm lying, stealing, and cheating, that's what creates the guilt and the shame, which leads to me needing the solution. And the solution is the drink or the drug. So if I'm clean, if I'm telling the truth, and lying, stealing, and cheating, all of that comes down to truth telling. All of it is. So if I'm telling the truth, if I'm honest, I got a chance. Hope. Hope is step 2. Step 2 offers us a light at the end of the tunnel that has been our dark addiction. We find faith, a glimmer of hope that we can trust in something other than ourselves to ensure that the sun will come up tomorrow and that better days lie ahead. Surrender. Step 3. Step 3 is about a conscious surrender to live a less selfish life. In fact, one that is increasingly selfless as we put ourselves at the mercy of God by turning our will and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4, courage. Step 4 is courage. Say no more. You've been so brave to front up to where you are at up to this step. And now is when you've compiled that exhaustive moral inventory and got ready to take out the trash. Step 5 is integrity. We can consider integrity as living honestly. We take the courage we had to write down our stuff in step 4, and now we share that with God and another human being, admitting that the exact nature of our wrongs gives us a shot at doing the next right thing from now on. This is the principle of acting with integrity. Step 6 is willingness. To be forgiven or have God remove our character defects. We must be entirely ready. This willingness principle will crop up throughout our recovery as we achieve so much when we demonstrate a simple willingness. Step 7 is humility. We've addressed the idea of right-sizing everything in your recovery, and this is never more true than when it comes to staying humble. God will remove our shortcomings if we humbly ask Him. Step 8 is love. This is when we first showed that we genuinely care. Empathy and compassion are part and parcel of the brotherly or sisterly love that is at work here as we made a list of the people we'd harmed. Practicing sobriety means acting from a place of love. Step 9 is responsibility. We have taken ownership of our past wrongdoings and made direct amends whenever possible. Responsibility nowadays means the ability to respond. We've become reliable to the people that need to count on us. We can answer our phones in an emergency. We can drive sober, knowing that if we get pulled over, we're not going to get a DUI. I remember there was so much freedom being clean and sober, driving, knowing that if I got pulled over, knowing that if my car got searched, that I wasn't doing anything wrong, knowing that if my girlfriend or my parents or my loved ones looked at my phone, they weren't going to see incriminating text messages or pictures. We have the ability to respond appropriately to any given situation, and that's just an amazing thing. Step 10 is discipline. We're reminded here that a lifetime of recovery requires daily discipline. Prayer, meditation, and taking a daily inventory become habits of discipline as we keep our house in order. Step 11 is awareness. We keep in touch with our higher power as we move forward with our lives. We must pay close attention and look out for the signs while also listening for God's will. Step 12 is service. Here we are paying it forward. I'm Tim Westbrook. Thank you so much for watching my series, Secrets and Tips on the 12-Step Program, and I hope that our paths cross again in my next video.
If you found this video to be of value, be sure to like it, subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos, leave a comment if you have a question, if you've got something to say. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism. So if you or someone you know is struggling, be sure to reach out to us. You can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, or our information is in the comments section below. And we provide everything from detox, inpatient, outpatient treatment, sober living, recovery coaching, sober companion services. So either we'll be able to help you or we'll be able to refer you to people or treatment centers that might be a better fit. So I will see you in the next video.